So when we talk about absolute value, I know you already talked about this in your regular math class. Does anybody remember what does it mean when we say absolute value? Does anybody remember? It's how far a number is away from zero. So the definition of absolute value is the distance of a number from zero. So how far away is a number from zero? Something else. Distance is measured in positive values. Okay? Distance is measured in positive values because think about when you're driving in a car, right? You've probably heard directions like north, south, east, and west, right? I could drive 5 miles north. I could drive 5 miles south, right? I could drive 5 miles east or 5 miles west. But every time I drove 5 miles, that 5 was positive, isn't it? We had a descriptor for the direction. Never did I say I'm going to drive -5 miles, did I? Because distance is always measured in positive values. So the same thing with absolute value. When you find the absolute value of something, how far it is away from zero, that is a positive value. So I'm going to draw a big number line here. So are you. Kind of make it go across my page. I'm going to put 0 in the middle. And I think I'm going to get maybe about 8 on the positive side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, I could fit about 8 on that side. So then I could probably fit about -8 on the other side. Right next to 0 is -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, -6, -7, and -8. So this number line is going to help us determine the absolute values of different numbers. Okay, so the first example. Example number 1. I want the absolute value of 6. Now that was a lot to write out, isn't it? I don't want to write that sentence every time, do I? The absolute value of 6. So the mathematical way to say the absolute value of 6 is by using absolute value bars. These little parallel bars that are kind of a little bit bigger than the number, those are called absolute value bars. So when I see a number inside these bars, I know they're wanting what is the absolute value of 6. Well, in order to find that out, let's go put our dot on 6 in our number line. Now here's the biggest mistake students make when they're trying to count on a number line. When students are trying to count, they usually go 1, they start here. You don't count the space you start with. Pretend like this dot is your feet standing on that number line, right? If you go to take a step, when you take a step, that's when you start counting, yes? So the same thing here. I'm standing on number 6 and I have to walk all the way to 0. I need to count my steps. So let's see how far away 6 is from 0. 1, 2 steps, 3, 4, 5. It took me 6 steps to get to 0. Because I'm starting at 6. I don't count 6. Because if I counted 6, that would give me too many. That would give me 7. But we pretend like we're standing on 6. So the absolute value of 6 is 6. Let's try another one. Number 2. I want the absolute value of 3. I can plot it on my number line. I'm standing here on 3, and now I need to count to 0. I'm going to count underneath because I already have counters on top. Standing at 3, I go 1 space, 2, and 3. So what is the absolute value of 3? It is 3 spaces away from 0. But now let's see what happens in the negative side. Maybe on the negative side, so example 3, I want to know what is the absolute value of negative 4. How far away is negative 4 from 0? Well, can I plot it and count my steps? Sure. I'm going to plot negative 4, and I'm standing on negative 4, and I have to count how far do I have to walk to get to 0. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it still took 4 steps. Did it take negative 4 steps? We don't take negative steps, do we? It just took us 4 steps to get back to 0. Are you starting to see a pattern here? What do you think the pattern might be? What do you think the pattern might be? If I had a 6, the absolute value of 6 was positive 6. The absolute value of 3, a positive 3. The absolute value of negative 4 was a positive 4. It's kind of like it's the same number, but it's the positive value of that because we're talking about distance. So let's do another example. If I want the absolute value of 8, before we plot it, can you think how many steps away is that going to be negative 8 from 0? How many steps away do you think it's going to be? We think it's going to be 8. Well, before I put a box around it, let's go plot it and double check. So I'm going to plot 8. I'm going to use underneath to make my counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, we're right. 8 spaces away from 0.